through information and trying to evolve a process on data that's been collected, it just doesn't work. So this is from Ethics and Behavior Peer Review Journal on the Duluth model. Numerous studies, in spite of numerous studies of program outcomes finding little or no positive effect on violent behavior, so the Duluth model is ineffective. And the Duluth model ignores serious mental health and substance abuse issues present in perpetrators. And that's the most important point, because what the model does is basically it's an alternative, or the program that the model offers is an alternative to jail or incarceration for men only. And what they say basically is they sit them down, teach them that domestic abuse is bad, and they have to stop being abusing domestically, and this is why they're doing it, and they need to stop. But they don't address any issues. They don't address mental health, drug abuse, alcohol abuse, or the fact that they may have witnessed their parents or domestic abuse when they were small and younger, which has been shown to lead you to be domestically abusive later on in life. And this just enforces upon that violent husbands evidence more psychological distress, more tendencies to personality disorders, more attachment dependency problems, more anger, hostility, and more alcohol problems and drug problems in non-violent men. So even though all these violent men violent men, in cases of domestic abuse, are showing these problems that you think would lead to their domestic abuse, the Duluth model is not addressing it at all. They don't care to solve it. So now that you've seen how unethical and ineffective the Duluth model is, I want you to literally think of a number. That number being how many states you think not only use the Duluth model after the fact, after incarceration and after the trial, when they've thought someone is guilty, but also use the Duluth model to train their police officers and as a method of conducting themselves, to train the police officers to think that men are guilty right off the bat and women are always victims. So Jake, what do you think the number is? How many states?
42.
No. 50 states. All 50 states, including 13 other countries, do this. They all use this discriminatory policy. Just think for a second about the effects that take place. Unless you have some really strong evidence, some kind of DNA evidence, or legitimate injuries to some extent, then if you're a male involved in a domestic abuse, you're the guy taking the blame. Period, in these cases. All right, so moving on, the recognition of the men's rights movement is really important. A lot of people don't regard it as a real issue. They just think it's a retaliation against feminism, and that since feminism has been doing a great job recently and has gotten women's rights progressed a lot in recent decades, then this is just men's way back of taking the patriarchy. So in the media, even though feminism itself is not a bad thing, it dominates the sphere over men's rights issues. You never see men's rights being discussed in the media. Men have a lot of the same problems, but they have much less help and resources. That's not just reflected in attitude, that's reflected in funding as well. The Violence Against Women Act, for example, appropriated $1.6 billion to help women in cases of domestic abuse and in rape, provides Rape Shield, which means that their name can't get out there in certain cases if they've been raped, and et cetera, et cetera.